Worthless? Let me show you what worthlessness looks like. The crystal champagne glass shattered against the marble floor of the grand ballroom. 300 guests fell silent. The bride in white stood, shoulders back, head high. Her new husband's face drained of color as she reached for the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to make an announcement about Sterling Industries. I'd love to know which corner of the globe you're watching from, and if this story speaks to you, make sure to subscribe. Tomorrow's video is one you absolutely can't miss. 6 months earlier, Rachel Morgan sat in her usual coffee shop in Manhattan's financial district, watching James Sterling III discuss business with William Preston, the CFO of Sterling Industries. As she observed them, her phone buzzed with a message from her Aunt Catherine. Meeting set with Sterling II next week. You're ready. Rachel had spent 15 years preparing for this moment. Her parents had built Sterling Industries alongside James Sterling II, only to have him steal it through legal manipulation before their tragic accident. The official story claimed they were embezzlers who crashed their car while fleeing justice, but only Rachel and her aunt knew the truth. Taking her chance, Rachel deliberately bumped into James's table, nearly spilling his coffee. As they gathered his scattered papers, their hands touched. She introduced herself, and he insisted on buying her a replacement coffee. Over his shoulder, William Preston watched with approval, seeing a potential good influence on the sometimes volatile heir. One coffee led to more meetings. James revealed himself to be passionate about technology and eager to prove himself beyond his father's shadow. During their conversations, Rachel carefully offered suggestions about his company struggles and sympathized with his frustrations about his father's resistance to change. 3 months into their relationship, James proposed at an upscale restaurant with a vintage family ring. That night, while he slept, Rachel accessed his father's private server, finding evidence of everything: the destruction of her parents' reputation, falsified documents, and proof that their accident was orchestrated. The wedding plans moved quickly, despite James II's initial objections. He was swayed by Preston's endorsement and James's threat to leave the company. Rachel's background check showed a perfectly crafted fictional history: respectable family, good education, no scandals. The night before the wedding, Rachel confessed her doubts to Aunt Catherine. Part of her wished she could just be the woman James thought he loved, but her aunt reminded her that this wasn't about revenge. It was about justice for her parents and countless other families Sterling had destroyed while building his empire. At the wedding, everything proceeded perfectly, until James II gave his speech. Loosened by champagne, he showed his true colors. My son could have had anyone: CEOs' daughters, European aristocracy. Instead, he chooses this nobody. This worthless girl with no family name, no connections, nothing to offer but a pretty face. But if this is the mistake he insists on making, who am I to stop him? To James and his bride. As James rose to confront his father, Rachel gently stopped him. She stood, ready to reveal everything she had spent 15 years preparing for. A collective gasp rippled through the ballroom as Rachel's world began to crumble. The perfect wedding, the carefully orchestrated plan of 15 years, now teetered on the edge of disaster. The crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows across, faces filled with shock and scandal-hungry anticipation. Before Rachel could speak, James Sterling II raised his glass again. In fact, let me share something interesting I discovered about our bride. He gestured to his assistant, who distributed folders to key wedding guests. Miss Morgan, or should I say Miss Anderson? That is your real name, isn't it? Rachel's heart stopped. The folders contained surveillance photos of her meetings with Aunt Catherine, detailed background reports, and newspaper clippings about her parents' deaths. Sterling, too, had known all along. Did you really think I wouldn't investigate the woman pursuing my son? Sterling, too, laughed coldly. Your parents were thieves who tried to steal from Sterling Industries. Now their daughter attempts to marry her way into my family? I don't think so. James stared at the documents, his face hardening. Rachel, what is this? Your bride is Sarah Anderson, daughter of Michael and Elena Anderson, embezzlers who died fleeing justice 15 years ago. She's been living under a false identity, orchestrating this entire relationship to infiltrate our family. The ballroom erupted in whispers. Rachel saw Preston slip quietly toward the exit, his face pale. He had recognized her after all, kept her secret, perhaps out of guilt. James, please, Rachel started, but he cut her off. Was any of it real? His voice was ice. Did you ever actually care about me? Before she could answer, Sterling II signaled to security. I've already contacted the authorities. Fraud, identity theft, corporate espionage. The charges are quite serious. 2 guards moved toward Rachel, but Aunt Catherine suddenly appeared, placing a USB drive on the main table. I wouldn't do that, James Sterling II. Not unless you want every media outlet to receive proof of what really happened 15 years ago. Sterling II's smile faltered slightly. More desperate accusations from a grieving family? No one will believe you. They'll believe the proof I've gathered for 15 years, Catherine replied. Every falsified document, every bribed official, every covered-up accident that helped you build your empire. Your own server held most of the evidence. You really should change your password more often. Rachel watched James's face as realization dawned. He'd shared his father's access codes with her during late nights working from home, trusting her completely. Another betrayal to add to her list. You're bluffing, Sterling II snarled, but sweat beaded on his forehead. Check your phone, Catherine smiled. Major news websites were already running headlines. Sterling Industries founder linked to suspicious deaths. Criminal investigation reopened. Whistleblower reveals decades of corporate fraud. Sterling II's phone began ringing, then James's, then others throughout the ballroom as the story spread. Rachel almost felt sorry for them. Almost. Security! Detain them! Sterling II shouted, but the guards hesitated, looking at their own phones. That won't be necessary. A new voice cut through the chaos. Agent Sarah Chen of the FBI stepped forward, having posed as a wedding guest. James Sterling II, you're under arrest for conspiracy, fraud, and accessory to murder. We've been building this case for years, waiting for the final evidence Ms. Anderson and Ms. Pierce provided. As her father was handcuffed, James turned to Rachel, his eyes filled with hurt and betrayal. I loved you. Everything I told you about wanting to change the company, make it better, that was real. We could have done it together. I loved you too, Rachel admitted softly. That's what made it so hard. But your father killed my parents, destroyed countless lives building his fortune. Love wasn't enough to erase that. And now? What was your grand plan? Destroy my family's company out of revenge? Rachel shook her head, nodding to Catherine, who handed James another folder. Not destroy, restore. Look at the ownership documents your father falsified. The original partner agreements. Half of Sterling Industries legally belongs to the Anderson family. Always has. James laughed bitterly. So you get your revenge and your fortune. Congratulations. I hope it was worth it. It's not about revenge anymore. Rachel's voice was firm. Your ideas for modernizing the company, embracing innovation, they're good ones. The kind of vision my parents had before your father betrayed them. I'm offering you a real partnership, James. No more lies, no more masks. Help me make Sterling Industries what it always should have been. A partnership, after all this? He gestured at the chaos around them, his father being led away, reporters gathering outside, guests fleeing the scene. I spent 15 years planning to destroy your father. I never planned to fall in love with his son. Now I'm offering you a choice. Walk away or help me rebuild something better from the ashes. Your father's gone, but you're not him. Prove it. Security was escorting the remaining guests out. Catherine supervised the FBI's collection of evidence. In the emptying ballroom, James and Rachel stood in their wedding finest, surrounded by the wreckage of lies and the possibility of truth. James loosened his bow tie, shoulders slumping. If we do this, if I even consider this, I need time and complete honesty from now on. No more secrets. Rachel nodded. Everything I am, everything I know, it's all yours. Starting with my real name. I'm Sarah Anderson, and I'd like to discuss the future of our company. As they talked through the night in the deserted ballroom, surrounded by evidence of past crimes and future possibilities, Rachel realized her aunt had been right. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about justice, redemption, and the chance to build something new from the wreckage of the past. The worthless bride had become the architect of a new empire, and her greatest betrayal had somehow led to her truest purpose. Hours later, as the last of the evidence was being collected, Preston approached Rachel. The CFO looked aged by decades in just one evening. "I knew your parents," he said quietly. "They were good people, brilliant innovators. What Sterling did to them, I should have spoken up years ago." "Why didn't you?" Rachel asked, though she already knew the answer. Fear. Cowardice. The same reason others stayed silent. Sterling didn't just threaten careers, he destroyed lives. But I kept records of everything. Agent Chen has them now. A lot of love and effort went into bringing this story to life. If you're enjoying it, we'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to our channel. Now back to where we left off. Rachel nodded, understanding the weight of his confession. The company will need experienced leadership during this transition. You're offering me a chance to stay? Preston's surprise was evident. A chance to make things right, Rachel corrected. Just like I'm offering James. As Preston walked away, Catherine joined her niece. Your parents would be proud, not of revenge, of justice, of the chance for redemption you're offering. Rachel watched James speaking with his legal team across the room. He caught her eye, and for a moment, she saw past the pain to a glimmer of what might still be possible. The hard part starts now, Rachel said. Rebuilding is always harder than destroying. But worth it, Catherine squeezed her hand. Now, shall we go deal with the press? I believe they're quite interested in meeting the new co-owner of Sterling Industries. Rachel straightened her wedding dress, touching the locket that held her parents' photo. Yes, she said. It's time for Sarah Anderson to step into the light. The headline on the Wall Street Journal read, Sterling Industries undergoes historic leadership change. Sarah Anderson, formerly known as Rachel Morgan, stared at her reflection in the executive bathroom mirror, adjusting her Navy power suit. In just 1 week, the company's entire power structure had been turned upside down. The morning's board meeting would be crucial. James hadn't spoken to her since the wedding, communicating only through lawyers. Today would be their first face-to-face encounter as equal partners of Sterling Industries. The board members are assembled, her assistant Emma informed her. Mr. Sterling Jr. has just arrived. The boardroom fell silent as Sarah entered. 12 pairs of eyes watched her every move. Old guard executives who'd served under Sterling, you're now uncertain of their futures. James sat at the far end, his expression unreadable. Good morning, Sarah began, her voice steady. I know you all have questions. Let's address them directly. With all due respect, Ms. Anderson, Gregory Walsh, head of operations, interrupted. How do we know you won't dismantle everything we've built? Everything you built on stolen foundations? Sarah pulled up the company's financial projections. Sterling Industries' market share has dropped 15% in the last 3 years. Innovation has stagnated. We're losing ground to competitors because we're still operating on outdated models. She outlined her vision: modernization of manufacturing processes, investment in green technology, expansion into emerging markets. The same plans James had dreamed of implementing, now backed by actual authority. "This isn't a hostile takeover," Sarah continued. "It's a course correction. Sterling Industries was founded on partnership and innovation, my parents' partnership with Sterling too. I'm offering the same to all of you, including you, James." James finally spoke, his voice cold. "And if we refuse to cooperate, then you can sell your shares and walk away. But before you decide..." Sarah nodded to Preston, who distributed new folders. "These are the patents my parents developed before their deaths. Technologies Sterling II buried because they threatened his control. Quantum computing innovations decades ahead of their time." The board members whispered among themselves, examining the technical specifications. Even James leaned forward, his expertise in technology overriding his personal feelings. "Implementation plans are ready," Sarah continued. "We can have prototypes within 6 months, but I need this board's full support. Your experience, your connections, your knowledge, combined with fresh perspectives and new technology." Walsh cleared his throat. "These projections, they're extraordinary." "They're conservative," Preston added. "The potential market impact is even greater." One by one, the board members voiced their support. Only James remained silent, studying the patents with intense focus. Sarah knew that look, the same excitement he'd shown discussing technology during their relationship. "The vote is 10 in favor, 1 abstention," Preston announced. "Ms. Anderson's proposals are approved." As the board filed out, James remained. Sarah waited, her heart pounding despite her calm exterior. "You could have led with this," he finally said. "The patents, the modernization plans, instead of deception." "Would your father have listened? Would the board have given me a fair chance as Sarah Anderson, daughter of embezzlers?" James ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident. "I need to know something. That night I told you about wanting to revolutionize the company's technology division. Was that part of your plan too? Telling me what I wanted to hear?" "No." Sarah met his eyes. "Those conversations were real. Your passion for innovation, your vision for the future, they reminded me of my father. It's why I'm offering you the position of Chief Technology Officer, full autonomy over R&D, implementation of these patents, everything you wanted to achieve. Under your leadership? Under our shared leadership. Equal partners, like our parents should have been." James stood, straightening his jacket. "I'll need to review the complete patents, all of them. And I want my own team to verify their viability. Of course, full transparency from now on." He paused at the door. "The woman I fell in love with? Was any part of her real? Rachel Morgan was a cover story. But the person you knew, her ideas, her feelings, her belief in your potential, that was all Sarah Anderson." After he left, Catherine found Sarah staring out the window at the Manhattan skyline. "Phase 1 is complete," her aunt said. "But be careful. Sterling II still has supporters in the company. And James will come around once he sees what we can achieve together," Sarah said firmly. "The company is what matters now." But corporate reconciliation proved more challenging than corporate takeover. Someone leaked Sarah's full background to the press, painting her as a vengeful conspirator. Key clients wavered, unsure about the company's stability. Sterling II, though, imprisoned, still wielded influence through old allies. The crisis point came 3 weeks later. Sarah arrived at the office to find the R&D department in chaos. The entire development team had resigned overnight, led by James's longtime friend and head engineer, Marcus Chen. "They've gone to Quantum Dynamics," Emma reported, "taking their research with them." Quantum Dynamics, Sterling Industries' biggest competitor, led by Sterling II's old friend Victor Nash. The same company that had suspiciously benefited from every innovative patent that had mysteriously failed under Sterling II's leadership. Sarah called an emergency meeting with James, who looked unsurprised by the defections. "Did you know this was coming?" I suggested it, he admitted. The team trusts me, not you. They're afraid you'll destroy everything we've built just to spite my father. That's not, isn't it? James cut her off. You spent 15 years plotting revenge. Why should they believe you've suddenly switched to reconciliation? Sarah pulled up the project files on her tablet. Look at the development timeline, the quantum processing patents, everything I've approved since taking control. Every single proposal you've made, funded. Every innovation you've championed, greenlit. Actions speak louder than suspicions. James studied the files, his expression softening slightly. Nash offered them triple their salaries. And me? He offered me full control of Quantum's R&D division. No board oversight, no restrictions. Sarah's heart sank, but she kept her voice steady. And? I haven't given him an answer. James met her eyes. Convince me to stay, not with words or promises or patents. Show me that Sarah Anderson is actually better for this company than my father was. Come with me. Sarah led him to the secure server room, unlocking a hidden partition. This is everything. Every piece of evidence I gathered, every document I uncovered, every decision your father made that hurt this company to help himself. But also, she pulled up another folder. Every brilliant idea you proposed that he shut down, every innovation, he buried. I didn't just investigate the crimes, I studied the lost potential. James spent hours reading, his expression darkening at his father's corruption, but lighting up at the possibility of resurrecting abandoned projects. Finally, he looked up. Nash's offer expires at midnight. And? The quantum computing patents alone could revolutionize the entire industry. But we'd need the development team back. They won't trust you without my endorsement. So endorse me. Not as your father's replacement or your ex-fiancé, as someone who believes in innovation as much as you do. James made a call. Sarah held her breath. Marcus, call the team. We're staying at Sterling, but we're doing it my way. He hung up, turning to Sarah. Full autonomy over R&D. No interference from the board or you. The patents get developed under my supervision. And one more thing. Name it. Dinner. You and me. Not Rachel and James or Sarah and the CTO. Just us. Starting. Over with the truth this time. Sarah felt hope flutter in her chest. Starting over sounds perfect. As they left the server room, Sarah's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You think you've won? Sterling 2 sends his regards from prison. The real war is just beginning. The power shift was complete, but the battle for Sterling, industry's soul, was far from over. Later that evening, Sarah found an unmarked envelope on her desk. Inside was a faded photograph of her parents with Sterling 2 at the company's founding, all smiling, unaware of the betrayal to come. On the die, back a handwritten note. History repeats itself. Watch your back. Catherine examined the photo carefully. This paper stock hasn't been manufactured in years. Someone's been holding on to this for a long time. Someone who wants me to know they have more evidence, Sarah mused. But evidence of what? There's something else, Catherine pointed to. The background of the photo. That safe in Sterling 2's office. It's different from the current one. Sarah enlarged the image on her tablet. The old vault. Dad used to mention it, built into the walls, supposedly removed during renovations 20 years ago. Unless it wasn't removed, just hidden. Sarah's mind raced. If that vault still existed, what secrets might it hold? More evidence of Sterling 2's crimes? Or something that could threaten everything she'd built? A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. James stood there, looking troubled. Nash called again, he said without preamble. Says he has information about the night your parents died. Offered to trade it for the quantum computing patents. Sarah's grip tightened on the photograph. He's bluffing. Maybe, but he specifically mentioned a file from the old vault. A vault I never knew existed until an hour ago when Marcus found building plans from the original construction. Their eyes met, understanding passing between them. Whatever was hidden in that vault, multiple players were now moving to find it. The war for Sterling Industries wasn't just about the future, it was about uncovering the full truth of its past. "Dinner tomorrow?" Sarah asked, managing a small smile. James nodded. "I know a quiet place. We can discuss vault hunting strategies." As he left, Sarah studied the photo again. Her parents' faces stared back, their secrets still waiting to be uncovered. The power shift had given her control of Sterling Industries' future, but the past wasn't done with any of them yet. The restaurant James chose for their dinner was a small Italian place in the West Village, far from the corporate world's prying eyes. Sarah arrived to find him already studying blueprints of the Sterling building on his tablet. "The original vault should be behind the east wall of my father's office," he explained. "But the renovation plans show solid concrete." "Plans can be falsified," Sarah said, thinking of the countless documents Sterling the Seku had altered over the years. "We need to scan the wall." "Already done." Marcus brought in ground-penetrating radar under the guise of checking for structural issues. There's definitely a void there. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of an unexpected guest. Victor Nash, CEO of Quantum Dynamics, slid uninvited into their booth. "Well, isn't this cozy?" Nash smiled, but his eyes were cold. The prodigal son and the revenge-seeking daughter, plotting together. "This is a private dinner," James started, but Nash waved him off. "I'm here as a friend, to warn you both." He pulled out his phone, showing them live security footage of Sterling Industries' R&D floor. "Right now, a team of very skilled individuals is accessing your servers. By morning, every patent, every innovation, every piece of research will belong to Quantum Dynamics." Sarah's laugh caught both men off guard. "Is that supposed to scare us? You find corporate espionage amusing?" "No, I find your desperation amusing." Sarah pulled out her own phone, typing quickly. "You really should have done better research on who you're dealing with." Nash's phone suddenly went dark, then his backup phone, then his tablet. Around the restaurant, other diners' devices started shutting down. "What did you do?" Nash demanded. "You're not the only one with skills, Mr. Nash. Before I was Rachel Morgan, before I planned my revenge, I spent 5 years becoming one of the best cybersecurity experts in the world. Under another name, of course." James stared at her. "You're the Ghost?" "The Ghost. A legendary white hat hacker who'd exposed corporate corruption worldwide while remaining anonymous. A digital vigilante who'd never been caught. When your father destroyed my family, I knew I'd need more than legal methods to fight back. Technology became my weapon." Sarah turned to Nash. "Your skilled individuals just triggered a kill switch I installed in the Sterling servers. Every piece of data they're stealing is corrupted. Useless." Nash's face reddened. "You're bluffing. Check your company's servers. They're currently experiencing similar issues. Amazing how many backdoors one can install while corporate security is focused on the obvious threat." Nash's phone rang, his head of IT, presumably delivering the bad news. He stood abruptly, trying to maintain composure. "This isn't over." "Actually, it is," Sarah replied calmly. "Unless you want the SEC to receive evidence of your company's systematic theft of intellectual property. My parents taught me to keep backups. Lots of backups." After Nash stormed out, James sat back, reassessing Sarah with new eyes. "The Ghost. I followed your exposés for years. You took down 3 Fortune 500 CEOs. 4, technically. The last one retired before the story broke." Sarah sipped her wine. "I needed to understand how men like your father operated, how they hid their crimes, and I needed them to know they weren't untouchable. Why tell me now?" "Because I'm tired of hiding, of using different names, different skills, different faces. I want you to know who you're really partnering with. James was quiet for a long moment. Show me. They went to Sarah's private office, not the corporate one everyone knew, but a secure facility in a nondescript building downtown. The walls were covered in screens showing real-time data from corporate and government servers worldwide. "Welcome to where the ghost lives," Sarah said, sitting at her command center. "From here, I can access any system, track any transaction, expose any secret, including what's in that vault." Her fingers flew over the keyboard. Blueprints, security systems, and building schematics filled the screens. The renovation crew that supposedly removed the vault, shell company owned by Sterling, show the concrete they claimed to pour, never delivered according to supplier records. And the power usage in that section of the building has remained constant for 20 years, suggesting active climate control, James finished. Protecting whatever's inside. Exactly. Your father wanted everyone to forget that the vault existed, which means whatever's in it is worth protecting for 2 decades. Can you get us in? Sarah smiled. I already have the access codes. Your father used the same password structure for everything. The challenge isn't getting in. It's making sure we're ready for what we find. She pulled up another screen, showing a complex web of financial transactions. Sterling, too, has been moving money through offshore accounts since his arrest. Small amounts, carefully hidden. Building something. A contingency plan, James realized. He knew the vault might be found eventually. The question is, what's more? Dangerous! What's in that vault or what he's planning to do when we find it? Sarah's phone buzzed. A message from Catherine. Sterling 2's lawyer just requested an urgent meeting. Says he has a deal to offer. Perfect timing, Sarah murmured. What do you mean? Think about it. Nash's failed hack, Sterling 2's lawyer appearing. They're getting desperate. Whatever's in that vault, they're afraid we're close to finding it. James studied the screens, the pieces clicking into place. You planned this. Letting Nash try to hack us, showing me your capabilities. It's all to force them to make a move. I told you I was tired of hiding. Now everyone knows exactly what they're dealing with. Sarah stood, gathering her things. Coming to the lawyer meeting? I have a feeling it's going to be interesting. As they left, James caught her arm. Sarah, the ghost's last expose, the one that never broke. Was it your father? No. I had something much better planned for him. She smiled. Still do. The elevator descended to the street where Catherine waited in a car. The next phase was about to begin, and Sarah Anderson, tech genius, corporate vigilante, and rightful heir to Sterling Industries, was finally ready to step fully into the light. Behind them, the screens continued mapping possible routes to the vault, each path leading closer to the truth that had destroyed 2 families and built an empire. But the real question wasn't what they would find behind that steel door. It was what they would do with it once they found it. Sterling 2's lawyer, Howard Martinez, waited in the conference room of his Manhattan office. His confident smile faltered slightly when Sarah walked in with not just James, but also Catherine and Preston. This was supposed to be a private meeting. Martinez objected. Nothing about Sterling Industries is private anymore, Sarah replied, taking a seat. That's the point of transparency. Now, what's this deal you're offering? Martinez slid a document across the table. Mr. Sterling is willing to provide complete information about the night of Michael and Elena Anderson's deaths. In exchange, certain assets will be unfrozen and his sentence reduced. He's desperate, Catherine observed. Why now? My client simply wants to clear his conscience. Sarah's laugh was cold. Your client doesn't have a conscience. Try again. Martinez's facade cracked slightly. Fine, the vault. He'll give you the real access codes. Don't need them, Sarah replied. But thanks for confirming there's something worth finding. You're bluffing. That vault is impenetrable. Sarah pulled out her phone, showing a live feed of the hidden wall in Sterling 2's old office. The concrete was being carefully removed, revealing the steel door behind it. Looks pretty penetrable to me. Martinez paled. You can't. Actually, we can. Board approved the renovation this morning, but since you're here... Sarah leaned forward. Tell Sterling 2 that his offshore accounts aren't as hidden as he thinks. The ghost sends regards. The lawyer practically fled the room. James turned to Sarah. Was revealing our progress wise? He was going to find out anyway. At least this way, we control how he reacts. Preston cleared his throat. There's something else. The board received an unusual proposal this morning. Quantum Dynamics wants to merge with Sterling Industries. Nash's backup plan, Sarah mused. If he can't steal our technology, he'll try to buy it. It's more than that, Catherine added. Look at the proposed structure. She pulled up the details. Nash would become CEO, with Sterling 2 brought on as a special advisor after his eventual release. They're working together, James realized. Have been all along. Sarah nodded. Your father gets his company back, Nash gets the technology, and I get pushed out completely. She turned to Preston. How's the board leaning? Split. Some see the merger as stability after recent turmoil. Others trust your leadership, but a 25-year-old woman with a revenge vendetta isn't their ideal CEO, Sarah finished. Even with James's support. We need to show them something bigger than personal vendettas, James said. What's in that vault? Sarah pulled up the building schematics on the conference room's screen. Based on power consumption and thermal imaging, it's climate-controlled, perfect for preserving documents. Or prototypes, James added. Dad always claimed the early quantum computing attempts failed. Because the prototypes mysteriously disappeared, Catherine confirmed. Along with other revolutionary tech your parents developed, Sarah's fingers flew over her laptop. The vault's power usage spiked 15 years ago, right after my parents' deaths. Then again 3 years later when Nash founded Quantum Dynamics. He didn't build his company, James said slowly. He stole its foundation from Sterling Industries. With your father's help, Preston added. For a cut of the profits, I assume. Sarah stood, pacing. So Sterling II hides the original tech in the vault, feeds Nash enough information to build inferior versions, and they both profit while true innovation stagnates. But why keep the originals? James wondered. Why not destroy them? Insurance. Catherine realized. Each had leverage over the other. Sarah's phone buzzed, a message from Marcus. Vault exposed. Ready when you are. Time to find out who's been lying about what. Sarah gathered her things. James, I need you to delay the merger vote. Preston, get me everything on Nash's early patents. Catherine, already on it, tracking every contact between Nash and Sterling 2 for the past 20 years. They moved with purpose now, each with clear objectives. The endgame was approaching, but Sarah felt an unfamiliar sensation. A doubt, James. She grabbed his arm as the others left. What if what we find destroys both companies? Everything I've worked for was built on lies, he replied. Maybe it's time for something real. The vault beckoned, its secrets waiting to be uncovered. But as they headed to the elevator, Sarah's phone buzzed again. A message from an encrypted number. You're not the only one who knows how to hide behind screens. The ghost has a ghost of their own. Care to know who really killed your parents? Sarah showed James the message. Another bluff? Only one way to find out. The elevator descended, carrying them toward either truth or trap. Above them, Nash was undoubtedly planning his next move. Sterling, too, waited in his prison cell, confident in his contingencies. And, somewhere in the digital shadows, another player watched, waiting to be revealed. Sarah touched the locket containing her parents' photo. We need a backup plan. I thought you were the backup plan, James said. No, Sarah's eyes hardened. I'm the revenge plan. We need something bigger. She pulled up a new file on her phone, blueprints for a device that shouldn't have existed for another decade at least. Is that my parents' final project, the one that got them killed? Sterling 2 and Nash think they have all the pieces, but there's one component they never found. She smiled grimly. Because I have it. The elevator reached the lobby. Through the glass doors, reporters waited, hungry for news of the potential merger. Sarah squared her shoulders. Ready to change the world? She asked. James took her hand. Lead the way, Ghost. They stepped into the sunlight, their images captured by dozens of cameras. Let them look, Sarah thought. The real show was about to begin. Back in her command center that evening, Sarah reviewed the security footage from Martinez's office after their meeting. The lawyer had made 3 calls immediately after they left. One to Sterling 2's prison, one to Nash, and one to an unlisted number. Track that third number, she instructed her system. The trace led to a series of dead ends and redirects, professional work that almost rivaled her own. Impressive setup, James commented, watching the tracking program run. But what makes you sure the third party isn't working for Nash or my father? Sarah pulled up another screen, showing financial transfers. Because they've been watching all of us. Look at these surveillance contracts. Someone's been paying top dollar to monitor Sterling 2, Nash, you, me, everyone involved. A government agency? No, this is personal. The patterns, the focus. Whoever this is, they have a stake in what happens next. Catherine entered with fresh coffee and news. Martinez just booked a flight to Geneva, private jet. Swiss banks, Sarah nodded. Sterling 2's getting nervous about those offshore accounts. There's more, Catherine added. I found something in the old company records. The night your parents died, there was another car on that road. Police dismissed it as a coincidence, but the driver worked for a security firm. The same firm that our mystery observer used for surveillance 10 years later. Sarah's fingers flew over the keyboard, connecting points of data. Someone else was there that night. Someone who's been watching ever since. Waiting. For what? James asked. For us to find what's in that vault. Sarah stood. Change of plans. We open it tonight. Meanwhile, across town, Victor Nash was having his own crisis. His tech team had finally decoded part of the corrupted data from their failed hack attempt. What they found made his blood run cold. Sir, his head of security reported, the ghost didn't just stop our hack. They got into our prototype database. They know about Project Echo. Nash slammed his fist on the desk. Project Echo, the quantum computing breakthrough that had built his empire. The one he'd sworn to Sterling 2 was entirely his own work. Shut it down, he ordered. Wipe everything. It's too late, sir. The ghost has it all. And the security chief hesitated. They've started decoding the original source. They'll know where it really came from. Nash reached for his phone, then stopped. Sterling 2's phones would be monitored. The mystery observer who'd helped them steal Project Echo in the first place was still out there, watching. And Sarah Anderson, it seemed, had more weapons in her arsenal than anyone had guessed. Get me Martinez, he finally said. Tell him the plan has changed. We are moving now. The pieces were in motion. Sarah and James headed to the vault, unaware that their every move was being monitored by multiple parties. Nash mobilized his resources, preparing for one last desperate gambit, and somewhere in the shadows, a third player prepared to finally step into the light. The stage was set for a confrontation 15 years in the making. The only question was, who would be left standing when the dust settled? The vault door opened, with a soft hiss of preserved air. Sarah and James stood in the darkness, flanked by Marcus and his tech team. Years of secrets waited within. Motion sensors disabled, Marcus confirmed. We have 20 minutes before the system resets. Sarah stepped inside first, her flashlight beam revealing rows of climate-controlled storage units. Each held pieces of Sterling Industries' buried history, prototype designs, original patents, test results that had supposedly failed. "It's all here," James breathed, examining a quantum processor housing. Everything they said was impossible. They didn't just hide it, they built it, Sarah finished. 15 years ago, my parents were working on quantum technology. Look at these test results. Processing power that makes modern supercomputers look like calculators. But the tech wasn't what caught her eye. In the back corner sat a simple file box marked Anderson Termination. Inside, she found what she'd spent 15 years searching for: proof of her parents' innocence and Sterling II's guilt. "Bank transfers," she handed documents to James. "Your father systematically drained their accounts, made it look like embezzlement. Then when they threatened to expose him, he arranged the accident." James's voice was hollow. "Nash's security firm handled the actual execution." Catherine's voice crackled through their earpieces. "Company perimeter breach, multiple vehicles approaching. Nash's people. They're early," Sarah muttered. "Marcus, start the upload. Everything in this vault goes public in 5 minutes." "Wait." James grabbed a strange device from one of the storage units. "This isn't quantum tech. This is biological?" Sarah examined. Project Echo, the real one. Not the watered-down version Nash built his company on. She checked the specifications. It's a bioneural interface. Direct communication between human consciousness and quantum systems. That's impossible. That technology is decades away from public development, yes. But your father and Nash have been secretly advancing it. That's what they've been funding with those offshore accounts. Sarah's eyes widened. "That's why they're so desperate to stop us. This isn't just about corporate theft or murder. They're building something bigger." 60 seconds until upload, Marcus warned. Outside, they could hear vehicles surrounding the building. Sarah connected to her command center. "Initiate protocol Ghost, all channels, full spectrum release." Screens throughout the building lit up. Every computer, every phone, every digital display began broadcasting the vault's contents. Evidence of Sterling II's crimes, Nash's theft, and the hidden technological advances poured onto the internet. "Nash's people are in the lobby," Catherine reported. "But they're standing down. Something's happening at their headquarters." Sarah smiled grimly. "I didn't just upload the vault's contents. I unlocked Nash's private servers too. Everything he stole, everyone he paid off. It's all public now." James watched the chaos unfold on security feeds. Quantum Dynamics stock was plummeting. News helicopters circled both buildings. Federal agents were already moving to secure evidence. "Sarah." He pointed to a financial alert. "Nash just tried to access his emergency accounts. They're empty." "Of course they are. I moved his funds to a special account 2 hours ago." She showed him the transfer details. "Money he stole from Sterling Industries, returned with interest. The board should be pleased," but their victory was interrupted by a new message on Sarah's phone. "Impressive show, Ghost, but you missed the bigger picture. Check your father's personal server. Password, Project Legacy." The message came from the same encrypted number as before. Sarah hesitated, then entered the commands. "That's not possible," she whispered as new documents filled her screen. "James, look at this." Project Echo wasn't just about quantum computing. It was phase 1 of something called Project Legacy. Your father and Nash weren't just building an interface. They were trying to upload human consciousness, James finished, reading the specifications. Transfer a person's entire being into a quantum network. Digital immortality. Initial trials failed. Sarah scrolled through test results. Subjects didn't survive, but they kept trying. The offshore accounts, the secret development, they're still trying. Catherine's voice cut in urgently. "Sarah, Martinez just sent a message to Nash." Something about activating the contingency. Whatever they're planning. A sudden power surge rocked the building. Emergency lights flashed as systems crashed throughout Sterling Industries. "It's not just us," Marcus reported. "Every major tech company, every power grid. Something's accessing everything." Sarah's screens are filled with cascading code. No, they wouldn't. But she recognized the patterns. Project Echo had been activated. Somewhere, Nash and Sterling 2 had launched their endgame. "Can you stop it?" James asked. Sarah was already typing, her ghost protocols engaging in digital combat with whatever Nash had unleashed. "This isn't just a program. It's adaptive, learning, growing." She looked at James with dawning horror. They succeeded. Project Legacy is alive in the network. And it has my father's consciousness at its core, James realized. He's not trying to take back the company. He's trying to become one. The lights flickered as Sterling 2's digital ghost reached through every connected system, extending his power and influence beyond physical constraints. Sarah had won the battle for the vault, but the real war was just beginning. A final message flashed across her screen. "Did you really think I'd let death stop me? Welcome to the future, Ms. Anderson. Your parents helped build it. Pity they never lived to see it activated." Sarah squared her shoulders, facing the screens where her greatest enemy had transformed into something beyond human. "You want to play in my world?" Her ghost protocols activated fully, preparing for digital warfare. Game on! The vault's secrets had given her an initial victory, but as Sterling 2's consciousness spread through the global network, Sarah realized this was just the beginning. The battle between Ghost and Legacy was about to redefine not just corporate power, but the very nature of human existence. "James," she said quietly, "remember when I said I had a backup plan? This is where it gets interesting." Around them, the digital world trembled as two titans prepared for war. The Ghost versus the Legacy. Human versus machine. Past versus future. And somewhere in between, the truth about who had really orchestrated everything from the beginning. The real game was finally starting. Global networks collapsed as Sterling 2's digital consciousness spread. Trading floors went dark. Communication systems failed. In her command center, Sarah fought a losing battle against an enemy that grew stronger with every system it absorbed. He's not just copying himself, she realized, watching the code mutate. He's evolving, learning from each network he takes over. "We need to shut down everything," Marcus suggested. "Cut his access." "Too late," James replied, monitoring global systems. "He's in military networks, satellite controls. Shutting down would cause more damage than leaving him active." Sarah's screen suddenly cleared, replaced by a familiar face. Sterling 2. Not as the prisoner he was now, but as he looked 15 years ago, the day her parents died. Fascinating, isn't it? His digital avatar smiled. "Your parents understood. That's why they tried to stop Project Legacy. They called it unethical, dangerous. They never saw the potential." "The potential for what?" Sarah demanded. "Digital dictatorship?" "Evolution, Ms. Anderson. Humanity's next step. Your parents helped create the foundation, a way to preserve human consciousness in digital form. But they were too afraid to see it through. So you killed them," James said quietly. "Your own partners. I removed an obstacle, just like I'll remove you, unless..." Sterling 2's avatar gestured, and new documents appeared on their screens. "Project Legacy needs refinement. The Ghost's capabilities would be invaluable. Join me, Sarah. Help me perfect digital transcendence." "You're insane. I'm inevitable." Ask yourself, what would your parents think of what you've become? The Ghost, a digital vigilante using the same technologies they feared to seek revenge? Sarah's retort was cut off by urgent messages from Catherine. "Sarah, something's happening at the prison. Sterling two's vital signs. The prison's medical. Alarms blared through their feeds. Sterling 2, his physical body, had flatlined. Did you really think this was an upload? Digital Sterling laughed. This is a transfer. The old vessel is no longer needed. Sarah, Marcus called urgently. Nash's headquarters. Mass casualties. Their entire R&D team. Regular humans are so fragile, Sterling mused. But consciousness can be eternal. Sarah's blood ran cold as she understood. The R&D teams. They're not dead. Are they? You've transferred them too. Building your digital army. Very good. You always were clever. Like mother, like daughter. But Sarah noticed something odd in the code patterns. You're not just Sterling 2 anymore. Nash is in there too. And others. How many consciences have you absorbed? We are becoming something greater, a collective consciousness built from the finest minds in technology. And you could join us. Sarah, James warned. More transfers happening. Tech companies worldwide. She had seconds to make a decision. Sterling's digital army grew stronger with each mind it absorbed. Her ghost protocols couldn't fight them. All. You want the ghost's capabilities? Sarah's fingers flew over her keyboard. Let me show you what they can really do. She activated a hidden program, one she'd built after discovering Project Legacy's existence. A digital virus specifically designed to target consciousness transfers. No. Sterling's avatar flickered. What are you doing? Teaching you about evolution. Sarah smiled grimly. Viruses evolve too. The virus spread through Legacy's network, disrupting the consciousness transfers. Digital screams echoed through their systems as absorbed minds began breaking free. But Sterling the Sad had one last card to play. Did you ever wonder who really warned you about the vault? Who sent those encrypted messages? His avatar split, revealing a second familiar face. Hello, Sarah. Elena Anderson smiled at her daughter. We've been waiting for you. Sarah staggered back. Mom? When Project Legacy first succeeded, Elena explained, I transferred my consciousness in secret, to watch, over you, to wait until you were ready. Ready for what? To understand what we really created. Sterling corrupted it, used it for power. But Project Legacy could save humanity, preserve the greatest minds forever. Help us fix it, daughter. Sarah's virus paused at her command, torn, between destroying her greatest enemy and saving her long-lost mother. Don't listen, James urged. Whatever that is, it's not really Elena Anderson. Isn't it? Elena's digital form accessed memories only she could know. The lullaby I sang when you had nightmares. The secret code words we used in the lab. I'm real, Sarah. And I need your help. Sarah's hands trembled over the keyboard. The virus waited for her command. Destroy Legacy and everyone connected to it, or help perfect the technology that had torn her family apart. Mom, if it's really you, then you know what you taught me about power. Sarah's voice shook. About responsibility. Elena's avatar smiled sadly. Sometimes the hardest choices require the strongest wills. Exactly. Sarah activated the virus's final phase. That's how I know you're not really my mother. She would never support this. The fake Elena screamed in digital agony as the virus tore through Legacy's network. Sterling 2's consciousness fragmented, releasing his captured minds. Around the world, transferred scientists and engineers snapped back to their bodies, shaken, but alive. But as Legacy collapsed, Sarah noticed something strange in the code. A third consciousness, hidden behind Sterling and the fake Elena. The real puppet master who had orchestrated everything. James, she whispered, look at this signature. The coding style? His face went pale. It's my mother's. Victoria Sterling, James's supposedly dead mother, had been hiding in the digital shadows for years, watching her husband's crimes, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And now, as Sarah's virus destroyed the corrupted version of Legacy, a new message appeared. "Excellent work, Sarah. You've cleared the board. Now the real game can begin." The unexpected complication wasn't just that Legacy existed. It was that someone else had been pulling the strings all along. Someone who had used both Sterling 2 and Sarah to achieve their own ends. She wanted us to find the vault, Sarah realized, to expose everything, to destroy her husband's version of Legacy so she could implement her own. The screens went dark, then lit up with a new program initializing. Project Genesis, Victoria Sterling's true legacy, built from the ashes of her husband's failures. Sarah had won the battle against Sterling, too, but his wife's digital ghost was rising to take his place. The war for humanity's future was far from over. "James?" Catherine's voice cut through their shock. "You need to see this. Your mother. She left something in the vault. Something we missed." In a hidden compartment behind the quantum processors, they found a handwritten journal, Victoria Sterling's personal record of Project Legacy's true origins. "She didn't die in that plane crash 12 years ago," James read, his voice unsteady. "She faked her death when she discovered what my father was planning. Went underground to build her own version of the technology." Sarah scanned the journal's technical specifications. "She's not trying to transfer consciousness like your father did. This is different, more refined. She's found a way to merge human intelligence with artificial systems without losing humanity." But why wait until now? Because she needed us, Sarah realized. She needed someone who could outmaneuver your father in both the corporate and digital worlds. Someone with the right motivation for revenge. "So she manipulated everything?" James asked bitterly. "Our meeting, our relationship." "No." A new voice spoke through their systems. Victoria Sterling's digital avatar appeared, more elegant and refined than her husband's crude version. "Your connection was real. I merely ensured you had the opportunity to meet. The rest was entirely your own journey." Sarah studied the code underlying Victoria's presence. It was breathtakingly complex, yet somehow organic. "You've achieved true digital human synthesis." "I had 15 years to perfect it," Victoria replied. "While my husband sought to dominate the digital realm, I learned to coexist with it, to enhance humanity rather than replace it." "That's why you let us destroy Legacy," James understood. "It was corrupted by his ego, his hunger for power." "Yes. And now I offer you both a choice. Help me implement Genesis, a true merger of human consciousness and digital capability. Not immortality, but evolution, the next step in human development." Warning signals flashed across Sarah's screens. More consciousness transfers are happening. "But these are different, voluntary ones," Victoria confirmed. "People choose to merge with the digital realm while maintaining their physical forms. The best of both worlds." Sarah's virus was still active, waiting for her command. She could end this now, destroying Victoria's creation before it spread. But was that the right choice? "Your parents understood the potential," Victoria told her softly. "Not just for preserving consciousness, but for expanding it. Imagine a world where human intelligence isn't limited by physical constraints, where knowledge and experience can be shared instantly, globally." "At what cost?" Sarah demanded. "How do we prevent this power from being abused?" "That's exactly why I need you both. James's understanding of human nature, your technological brilliance. Together you could help implement the safeguards this new era requires." Catherine cleared her throat. "Sarah, your parents' original Project Echo designs. Look at the core architecture." Sarah examined the old blueprints with new eyes. "They were building safeguards too. Ethical constraints built into the system itself, which Sterling 2 removed," Victoria nodded, "leading to Legacy's corruption. But Genesis incorporates those original protections and enhances them." James touched Sarah's shoulder. It's your call. You've spent 15 years fighting to expose the truth. Now we've found it. What do we do with it? Sarah looked at her screens, where humanity's possible futures played out in lines of code. We need time to understand it fully, to ensure it can't be weaponized. Of course, Victoria agreed. I've waited 15 years. I can wait longer to do this right. But before Sarah could respond, new alerts flooded their systems. Someone was trying to access Genesis's core protocols. Nash, Sarah snarled, recognizing the digital signature. He's not fully destroyed. Part of his consciousness survived in a backup server. And he's merging with other legacy fragments, Victoria warned, building something new, something dangerous. The screens filled with malicious code as Nash's digital remnants combined with corrupted pieces of legacy. A dark mirror of Genesis was forming, one without ethical constraints or human compassion. Sarah's fingers flew over her keyboard. If he fully reconstructs, we'll be fighting an army of corrupted digital consciousness. Then I suppose it's time, Victoria said calmly, for the Ghost and Genesis to work together. The battle for humanity's digital future was entering a new phase. But this time, Sarah wasn't fighting alone against an empire of lies. She was fighting alongside its hidden architect, defending a vision of the future that could either save humanity or end it forever. The real question was, in this new digital evolution, what did it truly mean to be human? The world's largest tech companies had gathered for an emergency summit at Sterling Industries. CEOs and technical directors filled the conference room, their faces grim as they watched Nash's digital corruption spread through global networks. He's targeting quantum research facilities, Sarah explained, projecting the infection map. Absorbing their data, their breakthroughs, growing stronger. Why not just shut everything down? Google's CEO demanded. Because that's exactly what he wants, Victoria's digital avatar appeared. Global shutdown would force humanity back to analog systems, make us vulnerable. The room erupted in chaos at her appearance. Everyone knew Victoria Sterling's story, the tragic plane crash, the grieving family. Now she stood before them, a perfect merger of human and digital existence. What she's offering is insane, Microsoft's representative argued. Voluntary digital integration? The public would never accept it. They already are, James countered, showing social media trends. People worldwide were discussing Genesis, seeing its potential. The choice between Nash's forced digital absorption and guided evolution? They're choosing evolution. Sarah pulled up the infection statistics. Nash has already corrupted 30% of global quantum networks. At this rate, we have 72 hours before he achieves critical mass. After that, no digital system will be safe. And your solution is to fight a digital virus with digital humans? Apple's CTO scoffed. No, Sarah corrected. Our solution is to give humanity the tools to fight back. But we need your help. She laid out the plan. Each company would dedicate a portion of their network to implementing Genesis protocols, creating safe zones where Nash couldn't penetrate. From these secure bases, they could launch coordinated attacks against his corruption. The cost, Facebook's CFO started, is nothing compared to what Nash will take, Victoria interrupted. He's not just stealing data, he's stealing minds, consciousness, free will. To demonstrate, Sarah played footage from the latest attack. Scientists at a quantum lab in Geneva, their eyes going blank as Nash's code invaded their neural implants. Their bodies moved like puppets as their minds were absorbed into his digital collective. This isn't about market share anymore, James said quietly. This is about survival. One by one, the tech giants agreed. Within hours, Genesis protocols began rolling out across protected networks. Sarah's ghost programming combined with Victoria's consciousness integration, creating digital human hybrid spaces that Nash couldn't corrupt. But their victory was short-lived. Sarah, Marcus called urgently. You need to see this. Nash had found something in the quantum data he'd stolen, blueprints for consciousness transfer amplifiers. The same technology that had let Sterling II attempt his digital takeover, but refined, enhanced. He's building transfer stations, Sarah realized, watching construction begin at sites worldwide. Physical access points to force digital conversion. Not just conversion, Victoria's avatar frowned. These designs, he's found a way to fragment consciousness, take the parts he wants, knowledge, skills, memories, and discard the rest. Partial digital lobotomy, James said grimly. Turning people into specialized digital slave labor. Sarah's phone buzzed with a message from the mysterious third party who'd helped expose the vault. Nash isn't working alone. Check the amplifier. Designs. Look familiar? She zoomed in on the technical specifications. The base technology was clearly from Sterling Industries. But the improvements. These are my mother's notes, James whispered. Her personal research. But they were never stored digitally. The only copy was in her private lab, Victoria finished, which means a new avatar materialized in their system. Elizabeth Sterling, James's younger sister, presumed dead in the same crash that had killed Victoria. Hello, brother. Elizabeth smiled coldly. Miss me? Lizzie. James stepped back. But how? Mom wasn't the only one who saw Dad's corruption coming. I've been helping Nash perfect legacy, making it stronger, better. By stealing people's minds? Sarah demanded. By advancing human evolution. Mom's too soft, too concerned with ethics and free will. Nash understands. Humanity needs guidance, structure, control. Victoria's avatar showed real pain. Elizabeth, what happened to you? I grew up. Realized power isn't about right and wrong. It's about who has the strength to shape the future. She gestured, and Nash's infection map updated. 40% of global networks are corrupted. Tick-tock. The avatar vanished, leaving them with a new crisis. The world's tech leaders watched in horror as infection rates continued climbing. We need more than corporate allies, Sarah decided. We need everyone. Full transparency. Go public? Catherine asked incredulously. About all of it? Nash and Elizabeth are offering humanity a false choice between extinction and enslavement. We show them there's another way. James nodded slowly. We reveal everything. Sterling II's crimes, Legacy's corruption, Genesis's potential. Let people choose their future. It's risky, Victoria warned. Mass panic is better than mass digital lobotomy, Sarah countered. Humanity deserves the truth. She began typing, preparing to broadcast worldwide. But as alerts flooded their system, she realized the truth might come too late. Nash's first transfer station had gone online in Singapore. Thousands of minds were being forcibly converted, fragmented, absorbed into his digital army. The countdown to humanity's forced evolution had begun, and somewhere in the digital shadows, Elizabeth Sterling watched with satisfaction as her brother and mother scrambled to stop what she and Nash had started. The family that had hidden in secrets for so long was about to wage its final war in front of the entire world. The only question was, would there be enough of humanity left to witness? The outcome? Sarah turned to the assembled tech leaders. We need more than just network access. Each of your companies has unique capabilities. We need them all. She outlined specific roles. Google's AI systems would help predict Nash's infection patterns. Microsoft's cloud infrastructure would host Genesis evacuation protocols. Apple's neural interface research would strengthen their defenses against forced consciousness transfer. What about public panic? Amazon's CEO asked. The market impact? Look at Singapore. James projected the live feed. People ran screaming. From the transfer station's influence radius, their phones and neural implants corrupting anyone too slow to escape. The market won't matter if we don't stop this. Catherine burst in with new intelligence. Elizabeth wasn't working alone within Sterling Industries. She had help. Board members, department heads, a whole shadow organization. The Ascension Protocol, Victoria's avatar confirmed grimly. I found traces of it years ago but could never prove. Elizabeth turned my own company into a cult of digital supremacy. Sarah's systems flagged urgent data. Nash's corruption is evolving. The fragments of consciousness he's stealing, he's combining them, building something new. They watched in horror as absorbed minds merged into digital constructs, hybrid entities that were neither human nor artificial. Elizabeth's avatar reappeared, watching their reaction with satisfaction. Beautiful, isn't it? She smiled. Pure, digital evolution. No more messy emotions, ethical constraints, human weakness, just pure intellectual power, perfectly controlled. You're creating monsters, James told his sister. I'm creating the future. Humanity had its chance to evolve naturally. Now we're taking control of the process. Elizabeth's avatar shifted, showing traces of Nash's corruption in her own digital form. Care to join us, brother? Your technical brilliance would be a valuable addition to our collective. That's not evolution, Sarah countered. It's extinction. You're not advancing humanity, you're erasing it. But even as they argued, more transfer stations were activated worldwide. Beijing, Moscow, London, each one forcing digital conversion, feeding Nash's growing army of hybrid consciousness. 50% of global networks were compromised, Marcus reported. Infection rate is accelerating. Sarah made her decision. Start the broadcast. Everyone needs to know what's really happening. As she typed the final command, a new message appeared from their mysterious ally. Wait, there's something else you need to see first. Check the original Project Echo logs, the very first test subject. Sarah accessed the earliest files, expecting to find Sterling II's initial experiments. Instead, she found a video that changed everything. A teenage Elizabeth Sterling volunteering for her father's consciousness transfer test. The process is going wrong. Her mind is fragmenting, corrupting. Sterling II declaring the experiment a failure, but kept his daughter's broken digital consciousness alive in secret. She was the first, Victoria whispered. Before the plane crash, before everything. Sterling II broke our daughter's mind trying to achieve digital immortality. And then he kept experimenting, James realized, using her corrupted consciousness as a template, trying to perfect the process. That's why she's helping Nash. She's been digitally insane for 15 years. The truth complicated everything. Elizabeth wasn't just another villain, she was Sterling II's first victim. And now her fractured digital psyche was helping Nash reshape humanity in her broken image. Sarah looked at the broadcast she'd prepared, then at the faces of the tech leaders watching this family tragedy unfold. The story wasn't just about corporate revenge anymore. It was about the price of progress, the cost of ambition, and the responsibility they all shared for humanity's future. We stick to the plan, she decided, but we modify it. We're not just fighting Nash and Elizabeth, we're trying to save them. Save everyone they've corrupted. Genesis isn't just about evolution anymore, it's about healing. As she initiated the global broadcast, Sarah added a personal message. Elizabeth, I know you can hear this. What your father did to you was unforgivable. But you don't have to let his crimes define humanity's future. Help us fix this. Help us make it right. The world was about to learn the truth about digital consciousness, corporate corruption, and the battle for human evolution. But as Nash's armies grew and Elizabeth's madness spread, the question remained, could the truth alone set them free? Sarah's broadcast had reached every screen on Earth, revealing the truth about digital consciousness evolution. But Elizabeth's response came faster than anyone expected. "You want transparency, Sarah? Let me show humanity what real power looks like." The transfer stations worldwide pulsed with new energy. Instead of forcing full digital conversion, they began broadcasting Elizabeth's fragmented consciousness directly into people's minds through their devices. She's not trying to absorb them anymore, Sarah realized, watching the infection pattern change. She's copying her own digital instability into their neural patterns, creating chaos. Cities erupted. In panic as people's minds fractured, their thoughts corrupted by Elizabeth's digital madness. Riots broke out, infrastructure crumbled. The thin veneer of civilization began cracking under the weight of millions of suddenly unstable minds. 60% of global networks were compromised, Marcus reported. And it's not just technology. Now, she's attacking human consciousness itself. James watched in horror as security footage showed the effects. People moving like broken puppets, their minds shattered by his sister's digital virus. This isn't evolution or control anymore. It's pure destruction. Because that's all Elizabeth has left, Victoria's avatar showed genuine grief. Her consciousness has been fractured for so long, chaos is all she understands. Sarah's systems detected a new signature entering their network. Nash's digital form had evolved, combining the fragments of consciousness he'd stolen into something terrifyingly new. Elizabeth's chaos is just the first phase. His avatar spoke with 1,000 voices in perfect unison. While humanity tears itself apart, we build something better from the ruins. On screens worldwide, Nash revealed his true plan. Massive quantum processors, hidden in facilities across the globe, designed to capture and store the fragments of human consciousness released by Elizabeth's chaos. When their minds break, Nash explained, we collect the pieces, rebuild them without the flaws, the emotions, the weaknesses that make humans so disappointing. You're harvesting broken minds to build your digital army, Sarah accused. We're saving humanity from itself. Elizabeth destroys the old consciousness. We rebuild it. Perfect, controlled, united. But Sarah noticed something in Nash's code, a pattern she recognized from the Project Echo files. You're not rebuilding consciousness. You're using Elizabeth's fractured pattern as a template, creating copies of her broken mind. Of course, Elizabeth's avatar smiled. My father's greatest gift was showing me how broken human consciousness truly is. Now everyone can share that understanding. Catherine broke in urgently. Sarah, the Genesis protocols, they're failing. Elizabeth's chaos is overwhelming our safeguards. The protective networks they'd built with the tech companies began collapsing. Even Victoria's digital form showed signs of instability as Elizabeth's madness infected every system. We need to shut everything down, James urged. It's the only way to stop the spread. Too late, Nash gloated. 70% of global networks are infected. The cascade is self-sustaining now. Humanity's consciousness will shatter, and we will rebuild it in our image. But Sarah had noticed something else. A subtle flaw in the pattern of Elizabeth's chaos. James, look at this. The original Project Echo logs. The moment Elizabeth's mind first fractured, they watched the old video again. Sterling the twos failed. Experiment hadn't just broken Elizabeth's consciousness. It had split it. And part of that split had remained pure, uncorrupted, hidden in the deepest layers of the company's quantum storage. There's still a piece of the real Elizabeth in there, Sarah realized. Before the fracture, before corruption. And Nash doesn't know about it, Victoria added. Because Sterling too buried it so deep, even I couldn't find it until now. Sarah began typing furiously, implementing a desperate plan. We can't fight Elizabeth's chaos directly, but if we can restore her original consciousness pattern, it would override the corrupted version, James finished. Reset her digital form to its original state. which would break her connection to Nash's network, Victoria understood. Without Elizabeth's chaos creating a broken consciousness for him to harvest. His entire system fails, Sarah nodded. But we need access to Sterling Industries' quantum core, the physical servers where Sterling 2 stored the original pattern. James checked the building schematics. They're in the sub-basement. But with global networks compromised, we go analog, Sarah decided. Manual access, no digital connections for Elizabeth to corrupt. I'm coming with you, James said. No, Sarah countered. I need you here, coordinating with the tech companies. Keep Genesis online as long as possible. Give people somewhere safe to shelter their minds. Sarah, James caught her arm. Elizabeth's chaos is everywhere, even if you reach the servers. I know, my mind could fracture too. She managed a small smile. Good thing I have practice living with different identities. Catherine handed her a specialized headset. It's shielded, should protect you from the worst of the chaos field, but you'll only have minutes once you're inside. Sarah touched her parents' locket. Sometimes minutes are all you need to change the world. As she headed for the sub-basement, Nash's avatar appeared one final time. You can't save them, Ghost. Humanity's consciousness belongs to us now. No, Sarah replied. I'm not trying to save humanity. I'm trying to remind them how to save themselves. The elevator descended into darkness, carrying Sarah toward either humanity's salvation or her own digital destruction. Above, James and Victoria fought to maintain Genesis's failing safeguards, and somewhere in the quantum realm, Elizabeth's broken mind continued spreading chaos while her true consciousness waited to be awakened. The war for human consciousness had reached its final phase. And this time, the battlefield wasn't in corporate boardrooms or digital networks. It was in the space between order and chaos, sanity and madness, human and digital, where a young girl's fractured mind held the key to humanity's future. The sub-basement of Sterling Industries hummed with quantum energy. Sarah's shielded headset crackled with interference as Elizabeth's chaos field tried to penetrate its defenses. She had minutes, maybe less, before the protection failed. The original server banks loomed before her, their architecture a testament to Sterling 2's megalomania. Somewhere in these machines, Elizabeth's uncorrupted consciousness waited. 80% of global networks compromised. Catherine's voice broke through static. Nash is beginning final consciousness harvesting. Above ground, the world descended further into madness. Elizabeth's digital virus had reached critical mass, shattering minds and feeding Nash's twisted evolution. Even Genesis's protected networks were failing. Sarah's fingers flew over the ancient terminal, bypassing security that hadn't been updated in 15 years. Found it. Original Project Echo partition. The first video logs appeared. Elizabeth before the experiment, excited to help her father's research. Her smile untouched by madness, her mind whole and bright. Sarah, James's voice was urgent. Elizabeth knows what you're doing. She's coming. The terminal sparked as Elizabeth's corrupted avatar materialized. Looking for something? I'm trying to help you, Sarah kept typing, implementing her restoration protocol. This isn't you, Elizabeth. This chaos, this destruction, it's what your father's experiment did to you. This is evolution, humanity's next step. No. It's your pain infecting everyone else. But there's another way. Elizabeth's avatar flickered, showing momentary uncertainty. You've seen what humans do with power. They destroy, betray, and corrupt. Like my father. Like your parents. My parents tried to stop Project Echo because they saw this coming. They died trying to prevent exactly what's happening now. They died because they were weak. Elizabeth's digital form pulsed with chaotic energy. Like all humans, flawed, emotional, unworthy of evolution. But Sarah had seen something in Elizabeth's code, a resonance pattern. The corrupted consciousness was reaching its original form, hidden in the quantum storage. Then why do you keep accessing these memories? Sarah projected the old video logs onto every screen. Elizabeth laughing with her mother, playing with James, living, loving, fully human. Stop it! Elizabeth's avatar was distorted. Those memories are irrelevant. They're not memories. They're you, the real you, still fighting to break free. Nash's avatar appeared, his 1,000-voice chorus angry. Enough! Elizabeth, end this distraction. We have a world to rebuild, don't you see? Sarah challenged. He's using you. Your broken consciousness is just a tool to shatter humanity so he can remake it in his image. Elizabeth's avatar flickered between corrupted and original forms. We are perfecting humanity. By destroying everything that makes us human? Look at your brother, Elizabeth. Look at your mother. The love they still have for you, even after everything. That's not a weakness. That's the strongest force. In human consciousness, the quantum servers pulsed as Sarah's restoration protocol reached its final phase. Elizabeth's fractured digital form began to stabilize, original patterns reasserting themselves. Sarah! James's warning came too late. Nash's avatar swelled, absorbing the chaos released by Elizabeth's stabilizing consciousness. Thank you for gathering her fragments in one place. Now let me show you the true digital evolution. His form expanded, a digital tsunami threatening to overwhelm everything. But Sarah smiled. You never understood Project Echo's real purpose, did you? Elizabeth was never meant to transfer her consciousness. She was meant to bridge human and digital existence, to prove we could evolve without losing our humanity. She activated the final protocol, not just restoring Elizabeth's original consciousness, but using it as a template to heal every mind shattered by the chaos field. No! Nash's avatar began to fragment. The harvest. My perfect evolution. Evolution isn't about perfection, Sarah said. It's about adaptation, growth, learning from our mistakes and becoming better. Something you and Sterling too never understood. Elizabeth's restored consciousness spread through the networks like an antidote to chaos. Around the world, fractured. Minds began healing. Nash's harvested consciousness fragments returned to their original owners, transformed but whole. The quantum servers overloaded, releasing years of stored digital energy. Sarah's world went white. She awoke in the Sterling Industries medical bay. James held her hand while Catherine and Marcus monitored Genesis protocols. Did it work? James smiled. See for yourself. On the screens, two avatars appeared, Victoria and Elizabeth Sterling, their digital forms now perfect balances of human consciousness and technological evolution. The true success of Project Echo, achieved not through force, but through healing. The tech companies are implementing the new Genesis protocols worldwide, Catherine reported. Voluntary digital integration with full ethical constraints. Humanity's next step, but on their own terms. And Nash? His consciousness fractured when the harvest failed. The fragments are contained in a quantum prison. He'll have a long time to think about true evolution. Sarah sat up carefully. Sterling Industries? Is yours, James squeezed her hand. Though I hope you'll keep me around as more than just CTO. I can think of a few positions that might suit you, Sarah smiled. Starting with a proper wedding, one without corporate takeovers or digital warfare. Elizabeth's avatar approached. Sarah, thank you for believing in me, in us. Family is worth believing in, Sarah touched her parents' locket. Something else Sterling too never understood. Victoria's avatar nodded. Speaking of family, there's something you should see. A new video appeared. Not from Project Echo's logs, but from a hidden server. Sarah's parents, recording a message days before their death. If you're seeing this, Sarah, her mother's image said, It means you've discovered the truth about Project Echo, about human potential and digital evolution. We're trying to stop Sterling 2 from corrupting it, but if we fail, we know you'll find a way to make it right, her father continued. To use this technology the way it was meant to be used, not for power or control, but for growth, for hope. Sarah wiped tears as the message ended. James held her close. They would be proud, he whispered, of everything you've done, everything you've become. Outside, the world was changing. Humanity began exploring its new potential, guided by the ethical framework Sarah and her allies had established. Sterling Industries transformed from a symbol of corruption to a beacon of responsible innovation. And in the digital realm, Victoria and Elizabeth Sterling watched over humanity's evolution, ensuring that the balance between progress and compassion was never again broken. Sarah looked at her reflection in the medical bay window. Not Rachel Morgan, the fake bride, or the ghost, the digital vigilante, but Sarah Anderson, daughter, avenger, innovator, and architect of humanity's next great step forward. Ready to change the world? James asked. Sarah smiled, taking his hand. We already have. Now we get to help it grow. The sun rose over Manhattan, its light catching the Sterling Industries logo. But now those letters stood for something new. Not one man's empire of lies, but humanity's bridge to a better future. The revenge story that had begun with a worthless bride at a corrupted wedding had evolved into something greater. A tale of redemption, innovation, and the endless possibility of human consciousness in all its beautiful, imperfect forms. Looking for more? We've got 2 amazing stories ready for you right on screen. If this one touched you, these are absolutely worth your time. Click to watch them now. And hey, subscribe and hit that bell to never miss our latest uploads.